90th. I believe that the inculcating of proper discipline in the home and in schools and colleges is essential in the life of any person. I do not believe that the need for discipline in the young is sufficiently appreciated in India. People seem to believe that to insist on discipline means being unkind to the young. For myself, I believe the reverse. I believe that in the long run it is unkind to the child to let him indulge himself without parental and educational restraint. Discipline does not mean harshness, but it does not mean guidance and a degree of restraining which is necessary for the young of any race. Otherwise, the young waste their strength on objects which they lack the experience to see in full. I regard it as unfortunate to see a boy, often a boy of talent, spirit, and imagination, allowed to behave as though he were his own judge of what he should do. He gets a wrong tendency on himself and he wastes his own time and other people's time. Questions. What is essential in life of every person? B. How do Indians feel about it? C. What is the author's opinion? 91. The aim of our planning is not only to make the country richer, but to see that the wealth is not unfairly distributed. We want to lessen the gap between the very rich and the very poor. A big problem is that not only are most of our people very poor, but many men with families to support have no jobs at all. What is the cause of this? Well, the cause lies in the fact that till now most of our countrymen have had to rely on farming for a living. There have been very few factories and mills where workers are needed. There is, however, a limit to the number of people the land can support. You must remember also that our population has been growing fast. During the last 50 years, it has risen by more than 50%. This has meant more and more people wanting work while the number of jobs has remained almost the same. Our education system too has been in fault. It has prepared young people only for office jobs. It has made them ashamed of rough labours. Every one of us cannot, however, have an office job. This is our problem, how to find work for millions of our countrymen whose hands are idle. What are we doing about it? One of the reasons why there are not enough jobs in that the country is not well developed. It follows from this that as development goes on under the plans, there will be more and more jobs to be had. Workers will be wanted for building schemes, for the big dams, for lake and small industries, and for the education and health program. As development takes place in the villages, old trade will come back to life again. Farming, fishery and forests too will claim new holders. Questions. What is the aim of our planning? B. What is our big problem? C. What are its causes? D. How are our planner trying to solve the problem? 92. In civilized life, there is a rule against violence, against our taking the law into our own hands. It is a rule which most of us observe. So many, indeed, that a great number of people go through life accepting orderliness and non-violence as part of the scheme of nature. But when an individual comes into their midst who refuses to observe the current rules and follow the simple rule that might is right, the law-abiding members of society do not know what to do and look on in helpless, bewildered confusion. The last two wars did something to alter man's attitude towards the rules of life, but much less than that might have been expected. Men went into the fighting line, not, as our generals love to say, because man is a fighting animal, but because they were law-abiding citizens, obediently doing what the state told them to do. It was the duty of the soldier to commit violence and murder upon his country's enemies. But he did these things under orders, and the doing of them hardly impaired his normal law-abidingness. Considering the fact that for many years half the grown men in Europe were engaged in trying to murder one another, one can only be astonished that the post-war increase in crimes of violence has not been vastly greater, that it has not is a proof of how deeply the habit of playing according to the rule has become ingrained in us. Questions. A. What is the attitude of civilized men about violence? B. Do the last two wars prove that man is a fighting animal? C. Why did the soldiers commit violence and murder in the last two wars? D. How can we be sure that the violence in these wars has not hardened human nature permanently? 93. Discipline is of utmost importance in students' life. If the young students do not obey their superiors and go without discipline, they will be deprived of much of the training they should have at this period, and in future they will never be able to extract obedience from others in the society. Such misguided young men will surely come to grief in the long run. Society will never accept them as persons fit for commanding and taking up any responsible position in life. So, it is the bounden duty of all the students to observe discipline in the preparatory stage of their life. A school without discipline can never impart suitable education to students. Such a school is no better than a factory to turn out imperfect men and women. The rule of discipline in the playground and the battlefield as well plays a very important role. A team without discipline may not fare well in spite of good players, for want of mutual understanding and cooperation. The soldiers in the battlefield have to abide by the strictest discipline. In an army, everyone from the rank of general down to the rank of an ordinary soldier must observe discipline. In case of a soldier does not obey his immediate superior, the army becomes a rabble quite unfit for the achievement of the common end of the war. A far sight it may appear to us that discipline takes away individual liberty, but on analysis it is found that it does not do so, for liberty is not license. We find disciplined liberty at the root of all kinds of human happiness. Question 1. What is the consequence of indiscipline in student life? Second, what is the drawback of a school without discipline? Third, what part does discipline play in the playground and in the battlefield? Fourth, what is the fate of an army without discipline? Is it true that discipline takes away individual liberty? If not, why? 94. We are the citizens of no mean country, and we are proud of the land of our birth, of our people, our culture and traditions. That pride should not be for the romantic past to which we want to cling, nor should it encourage exclusiveness or want of appreciation of other ways than ours. It must never allow us to forget our many weaknesses and falling, or blunt our longing to be rid of them. We have a long way to go and much leeway to make up before we can take our proper station with others in the van of human civilization and progress. And we have to hurry, for the time at our disposal is limited, and the pace of the world grows ever swifter. It was India's way in the past to welcome and absorb other cultures. That is much more necessary today, for we march to the one world of tomorrow, where national cultures will be intermingled with the international culture of the human race. We shall therefore seek wisdom and knowledge and friendship and comradeship wherever we can find them, and cooperation with others in common tasks. But we are no suppliants for others' favour or patronage. Thus we should remain true Indians and become at the same time good internationalists and world citizens. What are we proud of as Indians? B. Should we forget our weakness and fallings? C. Why should we hurry to make progress? D. What was India's way to be great in the past? E. What should we do to be true Indians as well as world citizens? Page 713. 95. The history of the civilization of men is a study of man's effort to make himself comfortable by saving time and trouble. At a time when day after day of his existence on earth was spent in fighting the physical necessities of life, there was no leisure left to him. He did not have the time to do anything but to collect his food, eat it, and sleep away his time. The pictures on the walls of caves in the very early periods of human history show how, from the very first, man has expressed his desire for beauty, relaxation, and amusement. But these are possible only to those men who have the time for the cultivation of their minds. Therefore, we are not surprised to find the most primitive people inventing machines to economize time and trouble. When the first man balanced himself across a stream over the trunk of fallen tree, instead of wading or swimming through the water, he had discovered the first bridge that man ever built. When he used a piece of wood as a lever to roll a heavy log of wood, he laid the foundations of the science of mechanics. When he used the interwoven branches of a tree or made a rope from the fiber of plants, he had started well on the way to construct a modern engine. The falls of Niagara that run huge turbines and generate electricity enough to supply all kinds of energy over an area 300 miles away are only a development of the prehistoric watermill and the grinding stone. Question: how did man spend his day in the very early period of history? B. What do the pictures on the cave walls show? C. What led men to invent machines? D. What were the beginning of I. the first bridge, second, science of mechanics, third, a modern engine, fourth, a modern turbine and electric generator. Page 713.